Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Lucas Live. My name is Lucas Tyndall. I'm your host, and I am excited to be here today with someone who I consider a friend, someone who I consider someone I admire. He is very active in our local community, has served in many different capacities, and he's someone who I learned something about. We're going to talk about it today that I did not know and I did not expect him to say. One day during a conversation amongst the many things that he does and I do, and we were talking about the synergy between the many things and laughing because he's hilarious. He mentioned to me that he was a former drug addict, and I was shocked because not that I have any particular view of that or I know the face of it or anything, but I just didn't see it in his face. I didn't see it in his way of living and acting and being. He seemed like someone who had always been doing, for the most part, everything right. And I had come across him in the midst of us both doing good things. And I realized that, wait a minute, there's a lot of people out there who are now doing wonderful things, but maybe there's some things in their past that maybe they're not so proud of, but it is also a part of their story and helps them to be who they are today. So I am excited today to talk to my friend James Fye about his story, some things he's gone through, some decisions he made, and then I want to talk about the good news, which we always want to talk about good things here, about how he overcame that to become the man he is today. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to my friend James Fye. How are you today, sir?
Very well. Thank you very much, Lucas. I greatly appreciate you having me here and getting me on and throwing some diversity into the show. Yes.
Listen, that is not right.
So it's good to see we're gearing and branching out. So I thank you very much for having me on. And we've been talking about doing this and putting schedules together and finally getting the opportunity. So my name is James, and I am an alcoholic.
Interesting.
So I am 13 years sober.
Okay.
My sobriety date is Christmas Eve. So
Wow.
Christmas Eve of 2010 is the last time that I took a drink, had a mind-altering substance, or did anything, and have been active in recovery since.
Wow.
Yes, the man you see before you, the man you know,
Yes,
the man that
I met.
that hops about in the community and does the
Yes.
things is
That's a good way to put it.
was a lot different before 2010.
Interesting.
I guess a little bit about my story. The quick and dirty version is basically I started drinking probably 7th grade.
Wow.
Started and I remember, so in 7th grade, I believe we lived in Kentucky. I think my mom had gone back to college and she was at the University of Kentucky. And we actually lived on campus.
Wow.
Really cool housing. It was like the your standard six apartments on each side, 2-story buildings, and there were 38 buildings in there. So the last 10 buildings was family housing.
Okay.
And we moved in the summer, and it was really crappy and boring and nothing going on. And then all of a sudden I realized when come the end of summer and all the freshmen move in, the other 20-some buildings is freshman housing.
You're in a college town.
So literally in UK, buildings, 2 buildings down is all freshman housing, and all of these kids come into their first year at UK. And there was a group of guys, like I was a skateboarder and skateboarding around, and you got all these 18-year-old kids that are coming to college, and they had little brothers and kind of took me in. I was like the residential little brother. So that first night, there's the usual, the kegger party for everybody on their first time. And it wasn't like anybody pushed it or anything, but I was finagling and drinking beers and drank too much, drank too many, and went home and kind of staggered in the house and went to the toilet and threw up everything from my toes up. Put my head on the cool bathroom floor. And I remember my mom came in and she looked down and she wasn't angry and she wasn't mad. She's like, well, you tried it. You learned. And she goes, how do you feel? And I'm like,
never do that again.
And, she's like, well, I think your lesson has been taught. Don't do it again. And you would think laying there and never do this again. And I woke up the
and
next...
you're what, 12, 13?
12 years old.
12 years old? Wow.
Yeah. And I woke up the next day and the hangover was there, but boy, that fun, that release,
Mm.
that yeah,
That feeling of freedom
freedom.
that you just didn't
It
have to care
Yep.
about anything.
Yeah.
Mm.
Many people will find it hard to believe, but believe it or not, if I'm actually somewhat quiet, I'm
Mm.
actually somewhat
Still to this day.
to this day large
Interesting.
groups. If I'm not comfortable or not, you'll see me a lot of
Hmm.
times. Yeah, it's
I
kind
would
of a
not have known that.
yeah. It's so it that drinking overcame it and
Yeah.
helped me with that.
Yeah.
Um,
Somebody out there, I know this resonates with somebody out there.
Of
Yeah.
course. I think so many people when you listen to the stories of other alcoholics and other
Mhm.
people who use or addicts in general, that's the thing. It took them out of themselves and let them be more.
Yeah.
So basically, yeah, that continues on as, the weekends proceeded into high school. And, my mother was married and divorced 5 times.
Mhm.
A move on each
Wow.
side of one of those
Married and divorced 5
5
times.
times.
Wow.
And a few different moves in between them. Basically, we
Wow.
counted up, and I think by the time I was 20, I had lived in 19 different places.
Mm.
Ohio, Pennsylvania, Kentucky,
We're
Arkansas.
not talking about moving school districts
Yeah,
from Canton to
no.
Perry to
Yeah, no,
we're
it
talking
was,
about
yeah,
wow.
I honestly, and I've said this and I need to actually look it up, is
Mhm.
if you were to say to me, Lucas, here's $100 bill, who was your kindergarten teacher? I couldn't tell you. I couldn't even
Really?
tell you where I went to. I don't even,
Wow.
a lot. I don't have the memories of like, the
Mm.
first day of first grade or those
Wow.
things. But, and that doesn't lead or give an exam, my life was my life and
Sure.
it is what it is. Um, but with that moving and everything, it always was changes. You never knew how long you were going to be somewhere.
Mhm.
Once I found the drinking and I could become the fun guy and the get
Yeah.
out there, and I was the class clown and always
Mhm.
just kind of be that person.
Yeah.
Um, but it progressed on. We're going to go through, I mean, high school was drinking, drinking, drinking.
Mm.
Getting out of high school, I actually found a job. So right out of high school, actually graduated from Carrollton.
Okay.
Um, and I went to Kent Stark, enrolled
Mhm.
in there, had no business
Interesting.
in doing it.
Huh.
I found out many years later when I went back, I thought I did well. I thought I was doing great. I had to go back when I go to nursing school when I'm 40, but I had to
Okay.
get my transcripts because they're like, well, we'll count them. So I get my transcripts and I'm telling my family, all right.
I got
Yeah,
some credit.
I flunked orientation. Flunked it. So
Freshman orientation. That's just you just show up a couple
that's
times.
it.
They give you credit for
Yes.
that.
But I met a friend, and he ran a DJ company,
Mhm.
and I'm like, oh, this is cool. You're the
Okay.
center of attention, and you get to do the things. And I
Yeah.
love music, and I have a very diverse. That's one thing my mother taught me
I love
is
that.
music was always a part of growing up.
My childhood as well.
There's so
Yes.
many songs that are memories and
Yes.
just so much. But anyway, I started working with him and started actually DJing and working
Uh-huh.
in the bars. I've worked at, I mean, we're going back to the 90s.
Okay.
So
All right. Take us down memory lane,
the
James. Let's
original
go.
Pub Club,
Okay.
Nikki's original Double Time,
Okay. He's taking us back here.
BB
Oh,
McLean's.
I remember BB McLean. That was my first club.
Yesterday's.
Okay.
Sadie Renee's.
right.
When it was, I remember Buddy's Place. I mean, yeah. So
Uh-huh.
one of the things about being the DJ is you get to drink.
Yeah.
And so then that just kept it
Mm.
going. I was working in the bars 3 to 5 nights a week,
Mm.
and if I wasn't working, then where do you go and what do you do?
Yeah. Back to that same place.
Yeah, so drinking just became what I did, what it was. We're gonna throw in, I mean, there's not many substances that I haven't tried.
Mm.
Cocaine, I was a real big fan of cocaine.
Really?
The one reason that I don't feel as though that I was I absolutely loved cocaine. Loved the feeling. Loved everything
This is
about
a
it.
fascinating conversation. Let me pause here because we don't hear this side of it. Someone is either using and denying,
Mhm.
typically, unless they're amongst those that use, or they're recovered and they're just telling the sad story of I lost so much and that's it, never do drugs. And this is not a call to action for anybody to try this, but the reality is, while you were using, you loved it.
Loved it. It's actually,
It wasn't just this desperate need, and I'm addicted now, and I hate it every day.
oh no,
You enjoyed it.
I'm literally sitting here thinking of it at this very moment and still have fond memories of
Are
it.
you
Oh yeah, the
serious?
high from cocaine was amazing. Amazing.
What is it like? I've
Um,
never. I don't know.
Think of your it is so hard to describe. The most euphoric, it's just you're up, you're good, you're hyper, but you're not too hyper. You just feel on top. You could go. And if you're drinking, it enhances the drinking. Oh
Really?
yeah. Yeah. It was and it, honestly, that was the one thing that made
Wow.
my issue not become as bad as it could have been
Hmm.
is cocaine is really expensive.
Okay, I don't
And-
even know that either. I
Oh,
always
yeah,
wonder how these
yeah,
people are like.
yeah,
How do
yeah,
you use this
Yeah,
stuff? Okay.
and keep in mind, as I tell this story, I mean, I'm currently married. Jeannie is my second wife. I had my
Mhm.
first wife, Holly. At that point in time, we became divorced. A lot of the issues she went through.
You were using while you were married
Oh, yeah,
before.
yeah. And you know, the cocaine was not something that I broadcast and
Mhm.
kept from the family and kept from, you know, and we're going to discuss, you know, in talking about my alcoholism, you
Mhm.
know, I worked through this. Like it
Like-
was, I don't have the story of I've got 42 DUIs. I lost my
Oh.
job.
You were going to work functioning.
Yeah. Yep.
Interesting.
Yes, there are.
They would have known.
No.
Interesting.
And it was even on the night that I finally sat down and said, I have too much and admitted. I mean, everybody knew that I drank. Everybody knew that I was the drinker of the group,
Mhm.
you know,
Sure.
but you also encircle yourself with people who do likewise things, you know,
Good
when it's
point.
your, you know, today, like, for example, my granddaughter is 11 months. Her
Mhm.
first birthday is next month.
Oh,
You know, it's not going to be a bring a cooler of beer type of party.
okay.
But when my son turned one, everybody showed up with coolers
'Cause
of
they knew
beer.
what it was
Right,
about.
and
They were like, "This is what we do."
Here's the
Right.
cake. Here's this. Here's
Right,
the this,
whatever.
here's the-
Right.
Everybody got a beer in their hand.
Right.
And that's just the people that it was
Yeah.
our circle, and it's how it was.
Right.
And it really, I mean, there I can tell you this. There's the good stories, the bad stories. I
Sure.
mean, yes. Worked through it. And things I'm not proud of. I've driven drunk so many times I couldn't even tell you.
Wow.
Never got caught. Never, and I look back and I thank God there's so many things that I could have done. There's so
Yeah.
many, I drove drinking with Alexander, my youngest, in the car,
Mhm.
and times I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Not proud moments, but moments that keep me grounded.
Yeah. I
So,
respect that.
how did it happen? What happened? I mean,
Mhm.
it's basically, there came a day. It was, December 20th,
Uh-huh.
2010. Home from, it was a day off of work.
Mhm.
The kids were home from
What were you
school.
doing at the time? What was work at the
So
time?
at that point in time, I was a fireman.
Okay.
I worked.
This is even more like, what are we
Yeah,
talking about?
yeah.
You're not like I was at the. I
No,
just worked at the
I,
drive-through, and I was saying to people to.
Nope. So I was
Oh,
a
you were a
fireman. I
fire-
worked part-time and volunteered for Perry Township
Uh-huh.
and got a job, but I worked full-time as a fireman for the Timken Company.
Wow.
So I spent 12 years as a fireman at the Timken Company.
Interesting.
Timken Company has its own fire department,
But-
fire trucks, rescue, the whole shebang. We did
Wow.
all that. I was there for 12 years.
That's a pretty intense.
Yeah. So
job. What's going on there
it-
with steel and fire?
Correct. Yes. So
acid and there's a lot.
industrial firemen. It's a little bit different. Other fire departments, if your house is on fire, they show up and they put water on it. They make it go out. When
there's an acid fire.
Well,
Oh,
yeah,
what?
when steel, pops, when a vat pops and you've got steel rolling down, well, if you put water on top of it, it creates steam, which creates, basically explosions.
This
So
is chemistry
a little-
here. You're
little
not
bit
just your
different,
regular
yes.
fire. Right.
So yeah, I did
Interesting.
that. I was a
Uh-huh.
fireman for 13 years.
Fascinating.
But basically, I was home that day. I had been, drinking had become more of an issue and more of a problem.
Mhm.
Jeannie is my wife. She's not nearly. I mean, she can have a glass of wine and take
Yeah.
a sip and put it down, and still to
Mhm.
this day walk away from it and not
Yeah,
finish it.
yeah,
And even
you're like,
today, I'm like, what?
What
Why?
are you doing?
Why?
What are we
Why?
doing? Okay.
If you open it, you finish it, you
Right.
get another one. But
Uh-huh.
it was becoming more and more of an issue.
Yeah.
And so basically that day I had woken up. There was, at this point in time, I had moved on from the beer drinking and everything and pretty much was vodka because, you can pour vodka and Gatorade and go sit down at family dinner and You know, I don't know. Although I look like this, I'm not a man who really cares about electrolytes. But
Okay,
as
you
much
know,
much Gatorade as I put in, you
like,
think I was at the
man,
gym?
what are you, Jordan? What are you,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what is happening? Right.
So, you know, basically, had woke up that day, was out of vodka in the house, and so I literally woke Taylor, my daughter, up and was like, "You need to watch Alex. I'll be right back. I got to run to the store and get a pack of cigarettes." A smoker at that time.
Mhm.
And literally, it's 10 in the morning. I'm standing there in some Christmas Story pajama bottoms, slippers, and a t-shirt, hoodie, waiting for them to open the door.
Wow.
Funny thing is that I remember this. I go to the Lucky Irishman, the
I was gonna say,
liquor
where did you
store,
go?
the liquor
Where's
store
that?
right
Where
on
was that at?
Tusk.
Is it still
I
there?
Yeah, I had gone there,
Okay.
but I was actually going to go up to Woodlawn, but I had bought my last bottle of vodka at the Lucky Lottery store.
Oh,
on
where somebody
Woodlawn.
won there
Yeah,
at that
yeah.
lottery store. I know where that is.
Well, they have a
yeah.
liquor store there.
Okay, right.
But here's the funniest thing is that I didn't go to that one because I bought my last bottle there. So I went to this one because I didn't want them to think I was an alcoholic.
You don't want them to know.
Right.
I
The
think,
fact that
yeah,
I'm in
your
pajamas at
process-
10 a.m., but yet I'm skipping
Wherever
stores.
you go today, I'm in
Yes.
pajama pants to get vodka is a problem. Yes.
So basically get my bottle, get home, literally pouring it into a Gatorade bottle in the parking lot.
Wow.
Get home, drink all day long that day, and I got sick.
Mm.
And I wasn't someone that was a puker. I wasn't a big. I could count on one hand the amount of times I threw up in the years of drinking I
Wow.
did. And I remember I got sick. I'm in the bathroom, and the door's open, and Alexander, who is probably 6'5", 6" at this time,
Mhm.
I'm just sitting there on the bathroom floor, comes toddling in, and he's like, "Daddy, are you sick?"
Mm.
Now he had just heard me retching from my
Right.
toes up,
Yep.
and that's what he thought. And for whatever moment, and most addicts will tell you that there's a moment that just hits them.
Mm.
And for whatever reason, that statement, that moment sitting there, I was like, yes, I am.
Mm.
And I walked downstairs.
What did you mean by yes, I'm sick?
Yes, I'm sick. The drinking, the everything. It was,
I'm sick.
I was sick. I
Yeah.
was done. I didn't know how to be
Yeah.
done. You know,
Yeah.
I had made people make jokes. I had made jokes. I'm not an alcoholic. Alcoholics spill drinks. I don't spill my drink. You know,
Right.
yeah.
Alcoholics go to meetings and
Correct.
stuff, and they,
Yes.
that's what
Yeah.
alcoholics do.
I'm not joining a club.
Yeah, my mom would say, I'm a drunk. I'm not an alcoholic. She
Correct.
said, alcoholics have to go to a lot of meetings. I don't do that.
So I walked downstairs and literally picked up the phone. I called my wife at work, and I'm like, "You need to come home right now."
Mm.
Click. That's it. That's all I told her. Walked out on the porch, sat what was left of the bottle, lit up a cigarette, sitting on the porch. Literally, it's December, the snow,
Wow,
everything.
right. It's not
Still
a
in my
nice
PJs
spring
because I
day.
didn't get dressed. I
Right,
wasn't
still
fancy that
Christmas
day.
story. Yeah, still.
And she, phone's ringing, I'm not answering. And she comes up and she's like, what? And I hand her this now empty handle of vodka. And I'm like, I'm drinking probably one of these a day. It's too much. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to stop. And I don't know what. And so progress on. Basically what happens is I remember that moment. The rest of this is kind of a blur.
Wow.
But she's like, "Oh, what the heck? And what do we do? What do I do?"
Right.
So basically took me to the crisis center. At this point in time, I guess I've now sobered up some, and now we're arguing a little. And I'm like, "Well, you know what? No, it's just a bad day. Everything's fine." I exaggerated, and I remember they're calling me in, and they're going to give you an examination or an evaluation to see if you need to be there or anything. And I'm like, "That's fine. You can say whatever you want. I'm gonna go in there, and they're gonna come back out and tell you that I'm fine, and you're gonna send me home, and you're gonna apologize to me." And she's like, "Okay."
Right.
They didn't do that. They asked me. They asked me to stay for a few days.
Interesting.
So yeah, I spent. So that was the 22nd. I was there that night. The next night, now we are at Christmas Eve. And so I remember talking to the doctor, and at this point in time, usually it's a 3-day stay, 72-hour detox, and basically that's just alcohol can have some pretty serious physical withdrawal symptoms.
I mean, there are people, you were one, who was physically addicted to alcohol.
Yes.
Like I never hear people talking about alcohol has serious withdrawal symptoms. They talk about, I have a hangover from drinking alcohol too much last night. I shouldn't drink anymore. But you're saying your body can be asking for more alcohol.
At this point in time, and as I had the amount that I was drinking, I was no longer. If you go out tonight and you have a couple cocktails, you're going to get euphoric. You're going to have a little buzz. You're going to feel good.
Sure.
At this point in time in my alcoholism and my progression, is I was waking up and I was drinking to stop the shakes because my body's like, hey, you know, I need this.
We're used to this now.
Yeah, I want this. I was drinking to the point just to feel normal. Like there was no to drink to the point of drunkenness. It was so much.
It was a long road for you.
It
was. You would have drank a lot.
Yeah, and I was drinking literally. We're talking handles of vodka. I mean, and not the good stuff because. Although if you know, when I was out in public, I drink Grey Goose. I want the good stuff. When you're going to the liquor store, I want a $3 bottle of Camacho. That's the.
Give me whatever you got. Right.
Which is funny though. If you
rubbing alcohol a little bit.
People like to say that they drink the good stuff, and I want this, and I want that top shelf. Camacho, which is the bottom, like you can put it in a lighter, and it'll light the lighter. Is the most sold vodka in the world. Yes.
That's what people are really drinking.
Because people pour that in a bottle. Pour it in the other stuff. You know?
Okay.
But anyway.
Right.
So, and this is kind of a cool moment is I'm meeting with that doctor. It's Christmas Eve.
Now, mind you, rewind real quick. You thought, you have this moment, you call your wife, come now, hang up. She's calling. She finally comes. What's going on? Yeah. And you're like, I need help, right? You start to sober up, and you're like, never mind. This is crazy. Yeah. It's almost Christmas. I'm fine. Whatever was I thinking? I don't know. You think you're going to go in and talk to the doctors and convince them you're fine. You're a rational person. He's going to ask you questions. The answer is no, I'm fine.
Right.
Is this a need? No, I don't need it. Whatever. You figure you could pass the test. You don't, because they're trained to understand these things.
Yes.
They keep you there for several days now, and you are now facing what is life after this. So now we're Christmas Eve.
Yeah. So this and this kind of sets the stage for how the rest of it and how my recovery changed is. So we're talking that day, and I asked the doctor. I'm like, look, it's Christmas Eve. I know I agreed. I said you signed me. You locked me in. You know. They say you can leave, but you locked in that building. They're just so you know. I tried the door. I tried it went open.
They said I could leave, but the doors went open. Right.
So I asked him, I'm like, can I go home? And the doctor's there. Nice little old guy. I'm going to have a roundabout moment with him, too. So he's like, where are you going to go? And I'm like, well, I hope to go back home. I got a wife. I got kids. It's Christmas. He's like, what are you going to do to get after? What are you doing when you get out of here? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm gonna go home and not drink. And he's like, yeah, you won't do that. He's like, what about AA? And I'm like, well, and when you're in there, there's
those meetings.
There's the big book. It's what basically it's the story of AA. It's the steps. It's the whole thing. It's called the big book. And they had given me one, and I was reading some of it because you're sitting in a room alone. Right. They got basic cable, nothing going on TV. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I was reading that book. It seems kind of weird and stuff. He's like, I'll let you go home today. He goes, if I hear that your wife's picking you up and you have a place to go. And he goes, will you go to a meeting tonight? I remember thinking, and I'm like, I don't want to go to this, But to get out of there, I don't want to spend Christmas there.
Right.
I mean, Christmas ham in treatment, the crisis center. Right. So I'm like, fine. So we call my wife on the speakerphone. I ask her, he says he'll release me if you'll come get me. She's like, fine. This is
your wife now?
Yes, Jeannie.
This is Jeannie.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the doctor reiterates again. He's like, the other point is he's going to go to a meeting tonight. You're going to see that he does that. And she's like, yes. All right. So she comes, she picks me up, we get home. And I remember, I'm like, I remember leaning over the chair talking to her. And I'm like, I don't know about this AA thing. Like, I'm reading it and it's all about God and powers. And I'm like, I think it's a cult.
It sounds kind of cultish. Right. They get
I'm like, do you really want me to join? You want me to join a cult? And she's looking at me and she's just like, you told him you do it. You told me you do it. So 8:00 that night, I go to my first meeting. It's at Mercy Hospital in the back building. Yeah. I'm like, I remember pulling in there. It's Christmas Eve. It's snowy. It's cold. I'm like, ain't nobody
gonna be here. Right.
I walk in and there's 4 people sitting there. And I remember this guy comes up to me and he's this older gentleman, white hair, real nice. and he comes walking up and introduces himself to me, and he's
Mhm.
like, "Is this your first meeting?" And I'm like, "Wow, he's
This
got power.
right.
He
He knows
knows that this is." No, I was a wreck.
uh-huh.
I looked like hell.
Right,
I
right.
had just spent 2 days in rehab.
Lockup.
I'd taken a shower. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
but I thought
Right.
this man had wisdom and everything. But
Uh-huh.
I went to that meeting. I sat down. That gentleman introduced himself to me,
Mhm.
and basically, I mean, I could say so much more
Yeah.
and so many things, but it started. And the luckiest thing for me is that I found so much grace and fellowship and love in those meeting rooms.
Wow.
I became very, very active in the program. The
Mhm.
gentleman, his name was Jim Learman. He passed away last year. He
Mm.
was my sponsor until the day that he passed.
Mm.
He had over 50 years of sobriety.
Wow.
He used to pick me up and take me to meetings and introduce me to people and
Mm.
made me, and one of the big things in AA is service work.
Okay.
So
I
there's,
never knew that.
yes. So
And what is a sponsor for those who don't know?
so a sponsor is somebody, traditionally somebody with a year of sobriety or more,
Okay.
can then introduce themselves to somebody coming in and kind of just be their guide, their mentor, share
Mhm.
with them their journey and their story, and kind of just help them through.
Right. Got it.
And Jim's was that for me. The service work was huge with him. Like, pretty much everybody knows AA meetings. Every AA meeting's got a pot of coffee. Somebody's got to
Okay.
get there early and make the coffee.
Uh-huh.
There's people there's a secretary for the meeting. There's a
Interesting.
chairperson for the meeting. There's different things that you do.
Mhm.
And it's all about giving back to what was given to you.
Okay.
You
Yep.
can walk in and you can sit in the corner and you can not say a word and not be involved and not do a thing, and you'll still be welcome to any meeting you want to go
Wow.
to. But you're going to cross a point, and when you get to that point, then you need to start doing for others what they did for you.
Yes.
So that kind of branches onto now let's keep in mind this version of James back then. He wasn't volunteering for nothing. He wasn't
Yeah.
involved in his community.
Right.
I didn't do any of those things.
Interesting. And this is
Um,
the James I met.
y-
Is active community James is who
Yeah.
I know on boards and committees and serving, and not just on boards and committees, but like boots on the ground, involved with
yeah.
stuff. Okay.
Yep.
But then that's not who you were.
That wasn't no part of that.
No part.
I don't think
Okay.
I no, I never volunteered
Look,
unless there was
look,
beer involved.
look.
Back then,
Is there a beer drive I can have
Right.
collect beers for?
I volunteered for the Richville Firemen's Festival because we drank for free.
Okay. Okay. So that was a
So,
good
yes,
reason
yeah,
to be a part of that.
yeah.
Right.
But yeah, that was kind of one thing that I found, and I'm always the Alcoholics Anonymous is an anonymous program. It
Okay.
is I can tell you that I was there, but I'll never tell anybody
Who else?
who else was there.
Gotcha.
That's I've made my sobriety and my recovery very public.
Mhm.
I look back so many nights on that Christmas Eve, and that evening literally changed everything about me, everything about my life, my family's life, my career,
Wow.
everything changed that night. But I did not know, I wasn't familiar with AA. I didn't know people that were in recovery.
Mm.
Those alcoholics were people we joked about at the bar.
Yeah.
They were the ones looking in the window wishing they could be in there with us. They're not.
That's all you do about
But
it.
I
Okay.
always look at, and I know how it was such a fleeting moment
Mm.
that if I would have just not gone to that first meeting, I don't think my life, I literally think it's one of those, door one, door two. So for
Wow.
me, it's always been something I talk about. I'm public about it.
Yeah.
I have no issues with that.
I respect that
I've
tremendously.
had people that reach out to me just because they've heard, because they know that, I'm in the field, I work in the field, I talk
Yes.
about it, because I never want somebody to have that fleeting moment and I couldn't have been there.
James, I just want to say briefly, somebody out there listening or watching this may be their moment.
Mhm.
Hearing your story, they may see themselves in you. They may hear their story in your story. They may be realizing, yes, I'm hiding this from my family and friends. Yes, or maybe they know, whether it is a harder drug like a cocaine or whether it's a vodka or whatever else it is. To anybody out there listening, we definitely want you to reach out and get some help. I mean, and it is important to see these moments of the fork in the road and choose the right road,
Mhm.
and not to say, I'll do it tomorrow.
Right.
I'll do it next week. If you didn't hang up that phone, if you didn't call your wife and just make that immediate emergency action, nothing would have changed. Then as you started to shift and say, I'm coming, I'm fine, the fact that she loved you enough to say, no, you're going to do it.
Mhm.
Then coming out, the problem is sometimes we may make the first step to fix our lives,
Right.
but the follow-up steps is what we don't
Yeah.
take. And therefore, because I don't keep climbing the steps, I fall back down the steps.
Mhm.
And I find myself back at rock bottom somewhere like, how did I end up here? Well, because you stopped climbing.
Right.
Because you did one thing right and you thought, I've done enough, and if that didn't work, it's not meant for me. No, it's not meant for anybody to be addicted to drugs and alcohol,
Mhm.
right? But they have to be willing to take those steps. So somebody out there listening or watching, we encourage you to get some help. We encourage you to call family, friends, reach out for help and support to make sure that you make that transition and change. And then when the next steps come and the doctor, the counselor, the family member, whomever it is, recommends those next steps, that you surround yourself with people like your wife who are willing to say, no, you said you're going to this meeting
Right.
tonight on Christmas Eve, which seems ridiculous, but you should go.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then someone was there to meet you and help you along the way in the next step, and the next step, and the next step. And I applaud you for taking those steps to get out of there. And I guarantee somebody watching or listening now or in the future is going to see themselves in you, and it's going to change and help and change their lives forever because you're willing to be open.
Yeah. Well, and I think, and the other thing, and the other aspect that I want to share too is, I am truly blessed.
Yeah.
I stopped, I put that bottle down, and I've never touched it since. But that's the unicorn version of sobriety.
Interesting.
There's a lot of people, we're going to use the cheesy phrase that life is a highway.
Yeah.
You're on that path and you're going, and there's exit ramps. I got off at my
Yes.
exit ramp and didn't get back on the highway.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that don't.
Yes.
But the beauty of using that analogy is that there's exit ramps all the way along.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's the other thing. If you've been trying and you made it and you didn't, and you've fallen off and you
Yeah.
got on the wagon and got off the wagon,
Yes.
and relapse happens.
Yeah.
Relapse, it doesn't have to be a part of recovery, but it is for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so many people, and there's one of the things that I've always seen and feared is, people that were in the rooms and in the program and they fall off, and then they say the hardest thing ever is to come walking back in, to walk back into that group of people that they stayed
As
sober.
though it's your first day. As
Correct.
though-
And
yeah.
I'm back to year one.
I'm day one
I'm
now.
day
I'm
one.
day one
Yeah.
here
And
again,
I'm back.
right.
But I want to say that I've seen it so many times, and it doesn't
Mm.
matter how many times it takes you to
Yeah.
get there. You got to stay there.
Yeah.
And if you've fallen off, if you're listening and watching this and you've had and you don't know what to do, I can tell you that your circle, your family, your friends, whatever your
Yeah.
support is, will take you back. They want you back.
Yes.
So
They'll take you back to the group.
that's it.
They'll take you back to get help. They'll
Yes.
say, go and push forward. James, I absolutely love this. Bringing things around to now and who you are and who you've become. Talk to us a little bit about how you now transitioned into being this person who is...
Well, I honestly say that we need to blame that on Lamar Sharp and my wife.
Lamar Sharp. Oh, man.
Lamar is so Lamar,
For those who don't know, Lamar Sharp is the founder of Be a Better Me. He's a Canton City detective now, police officer here in Canton, Ohio. He's a larger than life character, personality, loves kids, loves people, loves the community. He is a different kind of guy.
Yes. Yeah.
He's like a superhero in real life.
So when Lamar was starting Be a Better Me, this is back in 2015. I've got some years of sobriety underneath me. My
Uh-huh.
wife works for CSE,
Okay.
and is unfortunately with all of our police force, they have
Mhm.
to work a second job.
Yes, yes.
So Lamar's second job was security
Security
at
at
CSE.
CSC,
He had been
yeah,
there
on
for
Market.
years. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
He had
yeah.
been there for years. Everybody knew him. Jeannie knew him,
Mhm.
And so he had started this, and CSE was one of the big supporters because they
Okay.
loved the idea and his initiative.
Yeah.
So, my wife comes home Wednesday and was like, Saturday, we're going to CSE. We're doing a stuff the cruiser for this guy. And I'm like, yes, dear.
Uh-huh.
I'm a
Whichever
wise.
you say,
I
dude.
like to say, I had a wife and I told her how it was going to be. I told her what I was going to do. I told her what and when and how.
Uh-huh.
She became an ex-wife.
Okay, all right,
And
all right.
now I say, yes, dear. And how are you? And how can I help? And
And
what do you do?
we
And
doing today?
I have a
And where we
happy
go?
wife.
Okay, I got that.
So,
right, you learned. Yes.
So we went and we volunteered, and I actually met Lamar on that
Mhm.
day, and him and I just hit it off. He was,
Mm.
as you said, Lamar is just Lamar.
He is.
And I really loved the Be a Better Me initiative. I loved what he was doing.
Yeah.
Is growing up, for I like to say that I grew up with so many father figures with those 5 marriages,
Oh,
but none of them were really father figures. So
Interesting.
it was always a different side, and with the focus on mentoring and what he offered for the youth in the community. So we started volunteering with him. I started being a part, drinking that Lamar Kool-Aid and hanging out with him.
Uh-huh.
I'm a cigar guy. Lamar may or may not be a cigar guy as well.
I don't know if you know about his social media, if you see him on
Right.
social media.
But we had that
Clearly.
commonality and kept
Uh-huh.
doing that. And I then he asked me to be on his board,
Mm.
and then after a little bit of time, I'm an organizer, planner.
Okay.
I can tell you where you need to be and what you need
That's
to do,
valuable.
and he needed that, and so he
Yes.
asked me. He had an opening on his board. I stepped up as vice president. And basically him and I did that for years.
Mm.
I actually just recently stepped down off of the board.
Mhm.
Everything's fine. It was just time I've got a new career change and some
Yeah.
focus in my life and a little
Right.
bit of time. And, we're still good. We'll still hang out. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was, being with him and being in the community. I then started to meet people that are involved in other nonprofits. It becomes
Yes.
your
Yeah,
circle
it
and
does.
your
Yeah.
friends.
Uh-huh.
My real good friend Mike Sturdivant,
Yes.
he's
Shout out to Mike.
he's
Yes.
the community guy, and him and I
Phenomenal.
hit it off, and you just start following your friends and do it.
Yeah.
I got involved with, at this point in time, my career's changed. I had gone back to school, got my nursing license,
Mm.
had been through a couple opportunities with that, had landed, was working with Conquest
Okay.
because I realized that my recovery for me needed to be a part of my career
I love
and to
that.
working with others and
Yes.
to helping that. Working with Conquest, I had the opportunity to do a lot of community stuff with them, and it just kind of, we were lucky in our family. Our youngest, Alex, is 17.
Mhm.
When he was young enough, he went where he went with us
Okay.
and grew up and doing the things and being a
Right.
part. And now he's old enough, he can say, no, thank you, I'll stay home. Y'all
Uh-huh.
go do what you
Okay,
want to
that's
do
cool
again.
too. You're okay with that?
My wife is supportive. She's been involved in other things as well. And
Yeah.
it was, so much was given to me just
Yeah.
in these opportunities. Working in the field of addiction, I truly believe and truly feel that, people look at addiction as an individual problem,
Yes.
but addiction in itself to me is a community crisis.
Wow.
So when I look at addiction, this is something that was fixed within my house.
Yes.
But there are so many houses that they can't get it done in. There's so many people that are in need that it's now become, now we've
Yeah.
branched out, we've gone through, now we have the fentanyl, the
Yeah.
stuff, everything is out there.
Yes.
And, within Stark County, the overdose deaths are staggering.
Wow.
And it's something that I feel that it is a community issue.
Yes.
And it's something that I've worked very diligently on and worked with so many of our partners within the community is we have to work. Addiction, even though it may not affect your life,
Yeah.
affects your life.
Yes.
Every person, everyone who's watching this, listening to this, some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Whether it's in your home, it's in your family, it's in your friends,
Yes.
or even beyond that, it's in your taxes, it's in your levies, it's
Interesting.
in your
Wow.
the crime.
Yes, you're right. You're
This
right.
is
You're
something
right.
that touches everybody's life. And so many times if people have talked to me or heard my story or and everything and be like, I really appreciate I don't have anything to, there's nobody in my life that's
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, okay, just give it time.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. The
Look a little
numbers,
closer.
less than 1 in 10, less than 1 in 8 people have issues with addiction,
Mm.
alcohol, some
Mhm.
way, shape, or form.
Wow.
So look around your circle, you
Yes,
know?
yes. And don't be surprised who's hiding it in the Gatorade. You
Correct.
may not
That's the
know.
thing. I can tell you that there's so many people that were like, "Really? You drink that?" And I was the
Yes.
fun guy. I was the
Wow.
fun guy at the party.
Yeah.
They didn't realize that once I left the party and I went home and everybody in my family went to bed, I stay up late and watch TV, which means I was pouring a cocktail and drinking myself to pass out.
Wow.
Even my wife, even my family had no idea the extreme of it.
Wow.
She knew that there was an issue, and I even
Yeah.
asked her. As I'm getting sober, we talked, and I said to Jeannie one time, I'm like, "What? Why? Did you see it?" She's like, "I saw it." She's like, "It
Yes.
was worse than I saw, but I saw it." And I'm like, "Well, why didn't you ever?" She's like, "It hadn't come to the point for me to give you that ultimatum." She's like,
Mm.
"Because I really was unsure what choice you would make."
Wow.
And I think she's right. I don't know what choice I would have
Mm.
made at that point in time.
Wow.
So,
Amazing. James, um, it is absolutely a pleasure to have heard your story. I've wanted to do this for a while. We've talked about it. Shout out to your beautiful wife
mhm.
and being such a strong woman and a supporter and someone who was able to help you and just still, you guys are just such a cool couple to me. It's always cool to see you guys
Mhm.
out and about. Shout out to our guy Mike Sturdivant, a
Yes.
phenomenal guy. Shout out to him and the Downtown Canton Partnership and
Yes.
everything he
Doing
has
great
going
things.
on, new podcasts, new things. He's traveling this weekend, actually, I think, having some fun. So shout out to him. Officer Lamar Sharp, everybody who you talked about in your story, the man who met you and said it's your first day.
Mhm.
Shout out to those people of impact who were
Yeah.
there for you, James. I'm happy they were because I got to meet such a phenomenal person. And just a quick story from just a week ago with James and I. We've talked about getting together for this for a year probably. I mean, maybe not, but it's been a while. And I was like, whenever I get back to doing my show, we'll do it. And I was doing a million other shows, a million other things. So I got back to it here a month or two ago and saw you and said we're
Mhm.
going to do it. And then we scheduled a date, and it was last Sunday. And I had actually rescheduled with a few others who I was going to have last Sunday, but I was going to have your interview because we've put it off already, and I didn't like that. And
Mhm.
you're such a good guy, kind guy. I'm like, I'm not going to put my guy James off again. And then last Sunday, my daughter, one of my daughters, I won't say which one, I have 3 daughters, so you won't know which one, was having a difficult time.
Mhm.
She was down, she was sad about some things, and um, I was getting in my car to come meet you here at my studio, and I just couldn't do it.
Mhm.
I just felt so compelled to go help my daughter in this moment. My wife was helping her. Things were fine. Things would have been fine, but there was something inside of me saying, "You're not supposed to go." And I called you, and it almost makes me emotional because really, I actually told this story all week. I was traveling, talking to business leaders, and I said, James, I said, I'm really sorry. And I mean, it was like time to me. I mean,
Mhm.
it wasn't hours before. It was like time to be here almost. And I said, I can't come today. I can't meet here. I said, my daughter is going through something, and I really feel like she needs me. And without hesitation, you said, Lucas, be there for your daughter.
Mhm.
You said the beautiful thing about getting older is we learn to trust our gut, and we know we have to be there. And you said, I have daughters, and I've been there with teenage daughters, and it matters.
Mhm.
And it mattered so much to me. Like, I'm such a go person.
Mhm.
I'm going to be where I'm supposed to be when I'm supposed to be there. I live my life based on my calendar, and I make my own calendar. So all those meetings and all those appointments and all those trainings and all those coachings and all those podcasts and all the things that I do all over the country every day is because I planned it, I chose it, I said yes to something, I worked for myself. So everything on there is my doing. And in that moment, though, my daughter needed me more than I needed to be here doing a show. And you could not have been more gracious. You
Mhm.
could not have been more kind. And that mattered to me. So I want to thank you
Thank you.
here today for that. And I just want you to know you are who I think you are. You are a phenomenal person. You're an extremely caring person. You're a fun, funny, engaging person. And I just want to thank you for all that you're doing in our community. I want to applaud you for being so open with your story. because I think it's changing lives. If you could say one last thing to somebody out there who may be struggling with alcohol addiction, drug addiction, whatever it may be, what would you say to them?
Reach out to somebody. I mean, that's the hardest thing that you'll ever do.
Hmm.
There are opportunities. You know, Stark County, we have so many treatment options. We have so many paths to
Yeah.
getting sober. You know, I am 100% nothing special.
Mm.
I've lived a life that was not perfect in so many ways.
Yeah.
I still to this day am not perfect.
Yeah.
There's people out there that don't like me and they have
Uh-huh.
reason to,
Sure.
and that's okay.
Uh-huh.
But you can fix you. There's
Yeah.
people that are out there, there's resources that are out there. If you want me, you can Google my name. It comes up. My
Yes.
phone number comes up. It's
I
out
love
there.
it.
You can find me on Facebook. You can reach out to Lucas.
Yes.
If
Please
you even
do.
have questions, I
Yes.
mean, the journey, the path, recovery is, you know, I say it time and time again.
Yeah.
I'm nothing special. People look at me all the time and say, like, no, I'm
You-
just
there
dude.
was
I'm just a
something
regular
special
guy.
about you. I don't know, but
and
I know
that's
what you
fine.
mean. I know what you mean.
But it is. And it honestly, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, not even in this room right now. I'm not but if I can do it,
Yes.
others can too. And whether you've tried once, this is your first time, your 10th time, your
Yeah.
100th time, let me just tell you that my life sitting here today is 120%. The number is astounding, better
Mm.
than it ever was when I was drinking.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I will take a bad day sober
Mm.
over a good day drunk
Wow.
100 times over.
Wow.
It literally has changed every outlet
Mm.
of my life.
Yeah.
The path is so much different. I never saw it.
Yeah.
You know, I was not a religious man. I was not, but the path, the power, the moments
Yeah.
that you look back and
Yeah.
see.
Something, someone out
You know,
there.
one of the greatest things about AA that really took to me is all you have to understand and agree to is that there is a power greater than me.
Yes.
Whether you call it God,
or-
Allah, Bob, whatever. A power greater than me. You
Yes.
can't. That to me was I couldn't
I love that.
intellectualize out of religion into that.
Right.
And I can tell you that looking over, maybe today is your day that you heard something and you asked something.
Yeah.
My day, that December 20th, 2010 was nothing special.
Yeah.
15 minutes before it happened, I didn't realize it was going to happen.
Wow.
And it changed everything.
Wow.
This could be your moment. Take it.
Well said, James. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Can't thank you enough. Somebody out there, you're watching, you're listening, you're looking for some help. We learned, I had another episode, our previous episode, we had Tiffany Skillen in, and she introduced me to 988, which I wasn't familiar with, like 911. But 988 is a number you can text. It's a national number, or call and get some help if you're dealing with some things. I don't know that it's specifically for drug and alcohol, but it's for people who are in crisis of some sort. And you can get some help. So text or call 988 if you need some help. Again, as James said, you can reach out to him or myself if you just want to talk to James and hear more about his story. Maybe you're a school, maybe you're an organization, maybe you're a nonprofit who is trying to help those that are going through this somewhere around the country, somewhere around the world, and you're looking for people like James to participate in something you're doing. I could see him being a wonderful, wonderful person to share. This was an extremely easy interview. You know your story well, and you tell it very well, and it's very powerful and impactful. So I encourage you to keep doing this. It matters to people. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Lucas Live. It's been my absolute pleasure being here with you. Remember, we are here to educate, motivate, and liberate. We want to teach you something you didn't know before. We want to motivate you to do something with that information, because information without motivation leads to stagnation. And we don't want you to be stagnant in what you're doing. We want you to move forward and make the changes that you're looking to make. Like you heard this episode today and you feel compelled to do something right now. Don't wait. You're waiting. Don't wait. No, you got to wait till you pull over. You got to pull over right now. You got to wait till something else goes right and you're about to do something. You're about to go start a new job or go on vacation. No, get help right now. It could be a life or death moment for you. It could be make all the change in the world. James said 15 minutes before he made the decision, he didn't even know he was going to make the decision. So maybe you didn't know you were going to hear this episode today. You feel it's a divine intervention of some sort, or for some reason you heard it. It's not by chance. This moment was for a reason, It was here for you. It is your opportunity to choose door A, door B, door number one, door number two, path number one, path number two. Choose the right path. You know the right path. You know it is time to stop living this life that is not beneficial to you in any way. And last but not least, liberation is to set people free. I hope somebody feels set free today to be their best self. Somebody feels set free today to open their mouth and admit that they have a problem. It's education, motivation, liberation here at Lucas Live. Please check out our other episodes. I've had wonderful, wonderful guests, and I can't say that I've had anybody better than James Fye here today. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next time on another episode of Lucas Live. Everybody have a great day.